Buenos días a todos los que están conectados a este 10º conversatorio de Arquitectour 2020, evento realizado por Construcciones Planificadas, la W Radio y con el respaldo del Grupo Aval. Les recordamos a todos que todos los conversatorios anteriores los pueden ver en las páginas de www.wradio.com.co/arquitectour o en la página de www.construccionesplanificadas.com Arquitectour. Este es un evento totalmente gratuito y la idea es que los conversatorios puedan ser de consulta de todos los interesados. Todas las preguntas que tengan nos las pueden enviar a través del chat, del live de YouTube o Facebook de cada una de las conferencias. La presentación de hoy la haremos en inglés. For me, it's an honor and privilege to present today's guests, a friend of Construcciones Planificadas. Brynne Mcnulty Rojas is co-founder and CEO of AVI, a data-driven real estate technology company that is revolutionizing the home buying and selling process in Latin America. Before starting AVI, Brynne worked at McKinsey, Goldman Sachs, and Celina. Additionally, as a director of the Mcnulty Foundation, Brynne supports other entrepreneurs around the world as they develop impactfully business, and Brynne spearhead the effort to launch an Aspen Institute Colombia. Brynne earned an MBA with high distinction from Harvard Business School, where she was named a Baker Scholar, and a BS in Financial and Real Estate at Wharton. From Colorado, we give a welcome, Brynne. Hello, Brynne. We are very happy to have you here in Arquitectour.
Mauricio, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here, and I want to say thank you to you. I want to say thank you to the conference and to everyone who's supporting the conference, because it's been a tremendous opportunity for people to hear talks on a variety of different topics. And as you and I were discussing, it's so refreshing to talk about these fun things happening in the world of real estate and get away from the pandemic, which is something we're all so sick of hearing about. So thank you, thank you.
Okay, thank you to you. And we can begin with your presentation, and then we have the last session from questions that we can talk.
Perfect. So I will kick it off to share a little bit about Hobby, the company that I co-founded with my co-founder, Sebastian. And as you can see here, we are focused on empowering Latin Americans in the largest financial decisions of their lives. Before we jump in, by the way, that tends to be the home, which is the most significant financial asset that almost everyone either rents or lives in or owns. Before we start, I'll give a quick overview of the residential real estate market to give some context. In Colombia, residential real estate prices have been growing steadily for over a decade. And you can see here the used homes index. Used homes is a term that's not so familiar for those of us from the United States. It's not new builds. But you can see here that Bogota, above all else, has been trending in a positive way for over a decade. And there's been we expect demand to control, and this supports the idea of people being interested in investing in used homes, whether to live in it or as an investor and renting it out. We also believe that housing demand will continue to grow based on demographic trends that I'm sure we're all familiar with. That there's a significant portion of the population, which you see in this bulge between 20 and 34 years old, who have to this point delayed some of the life decisions that cause them to move out and get their own home or they'll be to do that for and this is another really relevant context for people in the United States, is a massive market. It's about a 10 million person city if you include the surrounding municipalities. There's a lot of home construction being done, even despite the 21,000 new units built last year. Home ownership is about 50%. What's really interesting here is home ownership is about 50%. There's That means that either people have apartments that they live in and you have owner occupied homes, or the apartments that people rent are owned by investors or mom and pop smaller firms. There's about 2.3 million households, the majority of which live in apartments. These are 8 meters squared, so they are reasonably sized, but not excessively large for a family of 4. And the city of I believe Latin America has something like 28 cities that are over 1 million people. The United States has only 9. One difference also between some developed markets and markets in Latin America is how difficult it is to transit states. In Bogota, the average time on market for a home is 14 months. What you see here is 10 months is for the middle class, which is the most liquid place. So it's very market. Date has been excessively manual and actual physical paperwork. There aren't really relevant tools to assist people in the process. There's no MLS, so there's no data for people to understand what they're paying for a new home. There's not that much available online. In the neighborhoods in which we operate, we find that over 65% of the homes are not listed anywhere online. The most common homes, as you see in the photo, is what we call a window listing, where people, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, where people will hang a phone number in the windows. And then lastly, there's a significant lack of trust. I think people don't enjoy having strangers come in and out of their home on the sell side. There might be legal issues or other kind of hidden problems with an apartment that they're buying. And then, of course, there's financing risk if you're selling house. This exists in Bogota, but this is a similar situation throughout much of Latin America. And of course, as we're all familiar, it's impacted by the strict COVID lockdowns. Market prices have fallen above 3% since the beginning of the lockdown, and traffic has fallen a lot as well. I'm actually of the belief that this is representative of a bad we are a tech-enabled real estate company dedicated to simplifying the home ownership lifecycle. For sellers, we offer access to liquidity that lacks both. Instead of waiting over 10 months to sell their home on the market, we allow their home in 10 days. You can go on offer. You receive a single home visit from a hobby employee. We review the offer with you as kind of hands-on as you would like, or as independent as you would like. You accept the offer, we pick a date, and we will fund on the date that we tell you. We have found more certainty and they're necessarily it's a significant peace of mind. By the way, you can feel free to jump in and ask me any questions if you have them in the middle.
Yes, Brynne, one thing, I think we are hearing you in some parts, the audio led, so probably we can go more slowly and probably when we have problem and say to you, because I think it's the connection, probably the connection that you have.
Sure, I'm sorry about that. So was there any piece of the last bit that didn't come out so clearly?
I think we can repeat the two after, the before, the 2 slides, probably.
These 2?
Okay, perfect.
I apologize about that. So I was saying that Hobby is a tech-enabled real estate company dedicated to simplifying the homeownership lifecycle. And from the seller side, we offer access to liquidity and information that, as you saw in the market overview, the market lacks both. Instead of waiting over 10 months to sell a home, sellers in Bogota can now sell their home in only 10 days, which is obviously a reduction of over 30 times versus what they'd been experiencing before. The process is extraordinarily simple. Instead of simply go to hobby.co, request an online offer, receive a home visit, a single home visit from someone on the team. We review the offer as hands-on or as distant as the client would like and give them any kind of additional support or information they might need. And then they select a date and we fund and close on the date that works for them. We found that people are more excited about and value a lot more the certainty and the ability to know exactly when they can close and know that they will get the funding rather than days. Like, people are not always ready to move out of their home immediately. But it's been a big hit for sellers because that certainty is something that's very valuable. Perfect. In addition to people who are selling, owners, and we empower homeowners by giving them access to information. So we've launched a Zested project where you can go on and find your homes in here, and then we will tell you what we believe.
We can repeat this because we have an audio problem. I don't know if you have your speakers open. Or probably because I think it's like a return of the sound that we have.
It's so curious because it didn't obviously happen beforehand.
Yes.
Let me see. I'll just try this. Is that a little bit better?
Yes. Okay.
So I apologize, everyone. So in addition to sellers for whom we allow them to sell their home very rapidly, we also offer a product to homeowners who may or may not be in the process of selling, where we will estimate the price of their home for them for free. They can come on to hobby.co, complete a short questionnaire, and we will give them the estimate of the value and some other information about their home and the neighborhood in which they live. Oops. And then on the buyer side, we've completely reimagined what being a buyer in a market like Bogota is. We have found that buyers trust the homes that Hobby sells and they prefer to buy with us. We offer a quality certification. We explain why we've priced the home the way that we have. We offer homes that are completely free of all legal encumbrances. We certify that all of the title and everything is clear. We can be very helpful with people in applying for mortgages because we understand what the process is like. My co-founder Sebastian previously worked in financial services, so he's very familiar with the online mortgage applications. So we help people get the application together that's more likely to get approved. We sell homes that are newly renovated and move-in ready, so people don't have to deal with kind of a beat-up, dirty apartment when they move in. It's completely new. We are very available. The team is ready to tour homes 24/7. And today in the COVID times, we do visual tours in addition to the 3D tours that are offered on our site. We'll do iPhone tours one-on-one with people who want to see it over FaceTime. And lastly, we offer discounts with a variety of allies for products and services, moving, storage, furnishing, etc. And you can see a scrolling listing here. Because of the improved buyer experience, we've been able to consistently sell 3 times faster than the market. And similar to the buyer side, we offer hands-on assistance or as much freedom as buyers prefer. We also offer attractive investment opportunities for all of those apartments that are owned not by owner-occupied families, but by individuals. And we take care of the process of finding, pricing, closing a home. We can help with renters and more. We believe that the product that we offer is than it was 6 months ago because of the factors related to COVID-19. We offer certainty in a world that's become much more uncertain. We offer liquidity when people might need it more than they ever have before. And of course, there's safety with minimal in-person interactions that allow people to feel safe and secure. There's no need for multiple buyers to traipse through a seller's home. We offer a lot of signatures and other things to be done remotely. And of course, we have all of our tech-enabled services. I'll give you a little bit of a sense of our side of the process. We have a very strong data science team at Hobby that gather and build machine learning models to help us pick the homes that we want to buy or for the Zestimate model. We have very efficient renovation process where we quickly improve and then renovate homes so that they're ready to sell. And then we sell fast through the transformed buyer experience that we talked about. And again, you can see here some of the 3D visual tours that we offer for all of our partners. We have the way in which we manage the pricing process is we have extensive data collection, all of which is then we have the one in-person visit to see if there's anything wrong with the apartment, something that we might otherwise not have been able to gather from the questionnaire that sellers fill out. And then we confirm the final price in our offer. Also help us understand things. We what's happening day by day.
We can repeat this last one. Okay.
This one?
Yes.
Okay. So curious, again, because we spoke before on the same link. The way in which we're able to manage the pricing process is we have extensive data collection from a variety of different sources, online and offline, things that we pay for, things that we don't. And those all are put into the machine learning model that the data team has built. We then have the one in-person visit to see if there's any sort of kind of issue or other fact about the apartment that we might not have been able to glean from the online questionnaire. And then with those two pieces of information, we make a final offer. In addition to understanding the market price of homes, the models help us understand other dynamics in the market, like the expected hold period once we acquire a home, the everything that's and everything related to the growth of the firm. Looking forward, we intend to expand throughout Bogota. We hope to serve all stratos 3 and 4, which is generally the middle class, in Bogota by the end of this year. A couple of other and in and after we expand kind of our footprint, we also intend to really become a one-stop for anybody who is looking to do anything related to their home. We will expand product offerings to include design, renting, renovation, property management, other residential services. And that's us.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Brynne. It's amazing to see this type of companies doing this real estate, and it's a new way to buy. So I have a first question. Why you choose to be in real estate after being a successful executive and financial at consultant company at McKinsey, Goldman Sachs, And Selena, it's a question that bring me after seeing your brief about your life and your successful executive that you've done before being or founding Abby.
You're very kind. I would say that real estate has actually always been a part of my life, and there's pieces of real estate that tie through those different stages. Starting in college, when I was completing my finance concentration at Wharton, I took a class on mortgage finance systems throughout the world. And in that class, we saw cases of countries where they had very weak property laws, and they kind of reestablished property ownership rights and other laws related to residential real estate so that people who were formerly squatters could own the land or the home in which they lived. And the economic development related to those simple changes was astounding, because you had people who began paying taxes, and that funded roads being developed, schools being built, sewage systems being put in. And from there, obviously, as you can imagine, the economic development snowballed. And I thought, wow, like this is a really amazing way that you can change the world. And if you have an understanding of finance and you have an understanding of how to execute on the dream of getting to that type of impact, that's pretty special. So then within my last year of college, I actually did the entire real estate concentration in that 1 year because I took that class and realized like that is kind of what I wanted to do with my life. And when I joined Goldman, I started in the securities division and was on the trading floor because I had been there in the summer former to my last year at college. But because of my last year at college, I knew I wanted to move into real estate. So I actually transitioned groups at Goldman into a real estate investment group and was there for about 4 years working in real estate investments. Then when I applied to business school, I spent a brief period of time at a property technology startup in New York. And during the summer between my 2 years at Harvard, I spent at a online mortgage startup in San Francisco. So it was kind of, I wanted to see what was happening in the tech real estate space to understand how the market was evolving. When I moved to Bogota, I joined McKinsey because it was, obviously it's an amazing opportunity, an amazing firm, but a lot of that was also driven by some practicality. McKinsey is based in English. I understood the culture. It was a very easy transition. And I had a wonderful experience, and I learned a lot about communication and how to problem solve. That was really a good complement to my kind of traditional investment experience. And then when I went to Selena, that was also in the real estate space. It's a hospitality company, and I oversaw market research and growth and strategy. So it tied in there as well. So hobby was kind of a natural next step. I mean, I knew from moving to Colombia how complicated it was to find a home, and it was something that we weren't able to do until we were on the ground. And I was continually paying attention to what was happening in the prop tech space in developed markets like the United States. And there was so much going on, solving problems in markets that functioned much better than markets like Colombia. So it was clear that there was a lot to be addressed. And I was really, really lucky to find a co-founder in Sebastian who has a background in starting an operationally complex company like Mercado, which was his former startup, and in digital financial services. So we had a lot of complementary background there, and this ultimately came out of that.
Wow, what amazing story about how you became to Abby. How do you see the new trend of selling online?
So I think it's going to be a very strong trend. I mean, we all know that consumer habits over the last 20 years have shifted dramatically. Like, just look at Amazon. People love to do everything online. I think real estate has lagged, but it's catching up. You first had listing and browsing online with Zillow in the United States, and you had brokerage with Compass, and that's kind of grown a lot over the last decade. And in Colombia, we've seen publications on listing portals grow 42 times over the last 5 years. So there's a huge kind of surge online, even if penetration is not quite that high. And then the next step is transacting online. In the United States, this has been a really popular trend with companies like Opendoor, and Zillow moved into the iBuyer space as well. And it's quite remarkable. In some of the markets, 10% of the volume of transactions. And of course, there's considerations in financing, insuring, smart home, etc. But I think the biggest two changes are really listing, browsing, and transacting. And it's our belief that COVID and the kind of only support this trend further. It's safer, there's fewer tours as we discussed, it's more certain, and there's a lot more that you can do, which we've all realized over the last number of months. And once you get into the habit, it's harder to break. So
we lost you in the two, like 30 minutes, 30 seconds ago. We lost you, so you can repeat.
Sure. So I'm not sure how many seconds it was, but I don't know if I mentioned the transaction trends.
Yes, from there.
Okay. So basically the United States has seen a very popular movement towards iBuying, and in some of the markets in which Opendoor and Zillow operate, they account for over 10% of transactions in the markets. And we think that the COVID and post-COVID world will only further enhance this trend. We've realized that over the past few months, there's a lot more that you can do from home. And I think people will be keen to work in an environment which is safer, it's more certain, and they're now much more comfortable doing remote viewings, remote tours, signing legal documents from home, etc. So we think it's a trend that is here to stay.
Okay. Do you see Abby a startup for everyone?
So, one thing actually that might help, is it possible if I stop sharing my screen that might help the...
You can stop because we are not seeing your screen. Okay. Perfect.
Oh, perfect. So that might help the connection.
Yes.
Our mission is to empower the middle class, as I said at the start, in the largest financial decisions of their lives, which is their home. And we view the target market as about 70% of the population right now. So we offer liquidity and information to that group of people that lacks both. And this is not just people who are currently buying and selling, but also to renters, investors, and to owners. For buyers, as we saw, we offer newly renovated units that are free of legal encumbrances. We can help with paperwork, etc. For investors, we offer great investment opportunities. We help them understand value. We help them find renters. For sellers, we buy your home in 10 days, all cash. And for everyone else, we are so willing to share the information and the gleaning that we have from building the most robust real estate data asset in the country, that I think there's a lot of value for anyone who just is somewhat interested in the real estate space. If you're an owner, if you're a renter, if you're curious about maybe buying down the line, we're happy to give you information and help you understand the opportunities better.
Okay. When will Abby expand for more areas in Bogota and cities in Colombia?
So we expect to cover all of Bogota and stratos 3 and 4 by the end of the year, which is generally the middle class. We launched kind of extended Suba first, and then expanded to Kennedy and 2 other kind of large neighborhoods in the city. And we've been rapidly gathering data in many, many other neighborhoods, and we'll be delighted to offer the service to everyone in Bogota by the end of the year. In terms of other cities in Colombia, we're analyzing some of the larger cities, as I mentioned in the map. And we expect to launch at least one of them in the next 12 to 18 months.
Okay. Do you see the homes of the future after this pandemic? Any changes? You see that you are seeing or Abby seeing that it's going to be changes in the type of the design of the housing after this pandemic?
Yeah, I think that we've all learned a lot about ourselves and about our homes in the course of the pandemic because we spent more time here than ever before. And I think that people will view their homes as a place that is not just to eat and sleep, but really it's a place now that we know has to function, to work, to socialize, to exercise, to relax, to cook, to dine, to do everything that you normally do with different places within a city or within a neighborhood. So I think there'll be a lot more emphasis on flexibility of space and being able to utilize the same space, whether it's from kind of like the way that furniture is designed or walls can be moved so that there's a lot more flexibility for families to share a space and be able to complete the many, many aspects of life.
That's true. And that's true that what you said, that actually we are a lot of time at home and we are thinking all time how to change the space, and probably here we are going to do our office and here is going to be the playroom. So that flexibility, I think it's very important for what you are saying about the changes at the home.
Yeah. One other thing I think is people will care a lot more about natural light and air, and just this idea that like you are stuck at home, you want to be able to get some sense of nature, because I know we're all going crazy without that access.
That's true. That's true. Do you see Abby in different sectors, not only in housing? Are you looking about to have a Abby in offices or different sectors that to housing?
Right now, we're really focused on the residential real estate space. There is so much to be done there that I think we'll have our hands full for a while. But we do really envision ourselves as a one-stop shop for everything that you want to do related to the place in which you live. Rent, buy, sell, renovate, design, anything else. We can refer you to builders, to lenders, to insurers. Like, we can just be the central hub where we can either offer service or we can refer you to the best people who can.
Okay. Actually, there's a lot of startups becoming and people opening startups. What's the biggest challenge the first few months that Abby begin? What are the challenges that you have when you open this startup?
Yes. So one thing that was a big focus for us at the start was establishing trust with the market. As you can imagine, people who are transacting in what is their most significant financial asset are very anxious about their counterparties and understanding who they're working with and kind of the motivation of the people that they're working with. So we spent a lot of time trying to establish it through media. We got a lot of coverage at the launch in November, explained our financing and how we were fundraising and how we were going to pay for the homes. And then there's a lot of actual work spent with the individual buyer and sellers. We have people who want to see the office a lot of times to verify that the office is real. Sebastian, my co-founder, meets with a lot of the buyers and sellers, especially in the beginning of the process, to verify that we are an actual company, that this is kind of the way in which we operate, explain everything, just show that there's a face to this kind of online tech-enabled process, which has people a little bit nervous sometimes. I think now that we've began to have traction and that more people are familiar with us, that is becoming less and less of an issue.
Okay. In your experience that you have talked about that you are living in Bogota, in your experience last years living in Bogota, which is the charm of Bogota?
I love living in Bogota. I mean, it's a pretty remarkable place. It's a 10 million person city, which is enormous, especially compared to many of the cities in the US. And it's really so vibrant and full of energy. This extends kind of from art and fashion and design. I mean, you have the Colombian fashion designers took over the global scene over the last 2 years. An example is Joanna Ortiz, who did the H&M kind of partnership. And then you have this explosion of really successful startups. Just look at Rappi. So there's a lot of really exciting things coming out of Bogota that are very recognizable on the world stage. And then lastly, from a lifestyle perspective, Bogota's nestled in the mountains, and I'm someone who loves to hike and loves to be outdoors. And it's quite amazing that you get all of the benefits of being in this massive metropolitan city, but then you can also be in nature walking out of your apartment building. So it's been a wonderful experience for me, and it's a great place to raise a family.
Okay. How, Abby, that's a question that people are sending actually. How, Abby, calculate the price of your apartment?
So we have a lot of information that we've gathered, as I mentioned in that other slide. Some of it is from all of the online listing portals. Some of it is publicly available city data. Some of it is data that we purchase from brokerage firms. Some of it is data that we gather ourselves. And we have a very strong, as I said, data team that builds these machine learning models to look at prices at which homes were listed, prices we interpolate between all of those data points to come up with a price that we think makes sense.
Okay. How is, another question that they sent from Bogota, how is ABI, the structure of the company? How is, how many people have ABI, the company, the startup of ABI? How is the structure that you have?
In terms of like the hobby organization?
Yes, the ABI organization.
So we have a pretty large team. We're over 40 people at this time. We have people in a couple of different general areas. We have the data team, we have commercial teams who does sales on the buyer and seller side. We have marketing and PR. We have operations to execute kind of this operationally complex process. We have finance, of course, and strategy.
Okay. Another question that they send us from Bogota, how are you being able to buy a house in such a short time? You have seen, we have seen in your presentation that the strategy that you have, but how you can do it in a short time? Because as you said, part of our problem in Bogota is that we can put it to sale an apartment and we can stay 1, 2, 3 years and we don't have either one proposal for buying our apartment.
Yeah.
How ABI do it to have this success to sell it in a short time?
So sorry, we buy homes from sellers in 10 days. It takes us a little bit longer usually to sell the homes. So we execute on the buy side because it's very easy for us to understand the price that we'll pay. And because of the fact that this is our business, we understand how to verify the title, verify the structural studies, and go through all of those steps very, very rapidly. And because we are not needing a financing contingency, we're able to fund and close immediately. On the sell side, we're able to sell much more quickly than the average seller because of the fact that we have all of these tools to make being a buyer much, much better, which we talked about also, which is we have much better listings. We have accurate information. We have 3D visual tours. We have a commercial force that's available at any time to allow people to tour. We can help people apply for mortgages that makes them more likely to get approved. That we offer to help buyers close on the house, which is beneficial for us because it helps us sell much more quickly than the market.
Okay. One question that they sent, do you think your company will make any strategy alliance with construction companies or other or further service to these companies, or plan to continue the one-to-one with person and clients?
I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to work with construction companies, whether it's helping buyers of homes, like helping people who are buying new homes from construction companies can sell their old homes to us. And that's something that we definitely are interested in exploring further, that we've begun kind of thinking about. And whether or not we play in the new build space, hard to say. At this point, we're focused on the used homes and helping people be able to sell their used homes and find used homes at great discounts and newly renovated ones. But it's possible that things could expand in the way in which we work with construction companies down the road.
Okay. Do you see in the actual moment that we are crossing with this pandemic, what is the best time to sell or to buy a house that you are seeing in these 6 months that are the last 6 months of this year?
So I think obviously it all depends on your personal needs. If you want to sell your house to kind of get rid of debt, to downsize, to upsize, et cetera, there's no point in trying to play the market. Similarly, if you need to find a place to live for a variety of reasons, I think you just have to be practical about understanding where you should be and what's around you. I think that there is actually a lot of opportunity now. There is market dislocation related to economic uncertainty. And I think that people can probably get really good prices on buying homes. I think that it just depends on how long you're willing to hold it, what you're going to do with it in the meantime, if you're going to live there, if you're going to rent it. It's really dependent on an individual's house.
Okay. They send another question. Do you think that new homes are going to increase area? People are going to try to buy bigger area?
That's a really good question. I'm sure everyone is eager to have bigger homes after being stuck in
after this pandemic
for the last 6 months. I think that will be interesting to see. I mean, I think it's up to the construction companies who are the ones who will be building all of these new homes. The problem is really you have a lot of people in Bogota, over 10 million people, in a very small amount of space. And even if there are some price shifts or at least liquidity kind of imbalances in the short term, at the end of the day, there's a lot of demand for not that much space. So I think it just depends on what people are willing to pay. But we'll see. It could be that people get bigger apartments, but it's hard for me to imagine that there'll be that kind of long-term fundamental shift.
Okay. Another question that we can review it from your presentation that you have. Yeah. You talk about that you're going to expand to Latin America in the 5 years. In 5 years, you hope to be in different countries. Mm-hmm. Can you review again what are that countries that you are thinking about Abby to be?
So at this point, we haven't decided exactly what country we'll go into outside of Colombia. There's a lot to tackle in Colombia alone. But I think some of the other places that we would think of are Lima, Mexico City, Santiago. Like, there's a handful of very large cities that we're all familiar with, which we hope to be in, but we have not yet set the exact roadmap of what countries we'll go to outside of Colombia, just as I said, because there's so much to do in Colombia alone. In Bogota alone, with over 150,000 transactions a year, there's a lot to do. And then if you think about Medellin and Cali, we're pretty full for the short term.
Okay, and the US, I hope that you hope to be in the US?
I don't think we will go to the US. We're pretty focused on Spanish Latin America. And I think the opportunities that exist here are very different than in the United States. The fact that there is no MLS and there is no accessible data makes our product offering particularly special. In the United States, everyone has access to the exact same information, whether or not you're an iBuyer or an individual buyer or seller. So the benefit that those companies can offer to their clients is not, in my eyes, is not as significant as the benefit that we can offer to the consumers in Latin America.
Okay. One last question that I have, Brynne, from your experience, what you can tell us about running a startup? Actually, many people are trying to make startup, and what you recommend these people from your experience?
That's a great question. I think there's no real good advice that someone can give, because having received a lot of it, you realize that everyone's advice is just related to things that worked and didn't work for them, and everybody is different and things that worked really well for me include having a extremely talented and complementary co-founder. And I have been very lucky with Sebastian in that
We can repeat that we lost you.
Yeah. So I'll start just from the beginning, which is that yes. I think that there's no really perfect advice that one can give about starting a company, because having received a lot of advice myself, you find that people tend to just share what worked for them, and what worked for them is really dependent on them as an individual and on their particular company, of which nothing is ever the same. But things that have worked for me include finding a very complementary co-founder capable of doing all of the things that need to be done to start a company and get it off the ground. And I've been extremely lucky in that Sebastian had really in Bogota.
Yes, you can return. Okay.
So bizarre, because we had no problem before. Sure.
That's the amazing thing to be in life, that we can realize the problems that we can have in the internet. So, but all people know that we can have problems of connection. All people have problems actually when they connect to internet. So this is the magic of being alive. So if you can repeat the two last sentences.
Sure. I've been really lucky in that my co-founder Sebastian is very complimentary me in a lot of ways. Sebastian's Colombian. He was a founder of a very operationally complex startup in the past. He was familiar with the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Colombia in the way that I was not. So he was able to do a lot of the underground logistics that I would have struggled a lot to do. I was very lucky in that I had experience in the United States. I'd spent a lot of time in real estate technology. So I would say that finding someone who can do the things that you know are not your strengths is very helpful, and very clearly delineating who's responsible for what is really useful. And the last piece is just be willing to do lots of things that seem really not that special and value add. I spend a tremendous amount of time doing things that are not kind of like big picture special founder tasks, but really just kind of taping things together so that we can get to the next phase till things get formalized. And this takes lots of forms, from reviewing kind of small legal documents to making sure that when we were first doing open houses, I was running in color of the flyers that we were handing out outside of the commercial centers. Like, there's just all of the tiny tasks that you have to be willing to do on Saturday morning or on Thursday late at night, and that just, it becomes your life, and you have to be kind of flexible and willing to do it all within your lane. And then the same with hopefully you can get a great co-founder who will do the same.
Okay, thank you, Brynne, very much for the extraordinary time we have today. And we hope the best for you, for your family, and for ABI team. And we hope having the expansion of ABI in all Latin America soon, because we need this type of startups to be part of our buying system. And we invite to all the guests that are seeing this presentation to visit www.abi.com. CO at the CO. So thank you, Brynne.
Thank you very much again for having me. It was wonderful to see you again. And I apologize for whatever happened between when we did the test and now, but it was such fun to share with you a little bit more about Hobby, and thank you for everything you're doing with this conference.
Okay, thank you. A todos los seguidores, muchas gracias. Y les recordamos que el próximo jueves 30 de julio a las 10 a.m. tendremos a la arquitecta Mónica Cuervo de la firma WATG de Estados Unidos en Arquitectour 2020. Nos mostrará parte de los últimos resorts que se han construido en el Caribe y su vasta experiencia en este sector. Les recordamos que todos los conversatorios los pueden ver en la página de www.wradio.com.co/arquitectour o en la página de www.construccionesplanificadas.com. Muchas gracias a Construcciones Planificadas, a la W Radio y a Grupo Aval por hacer posible este evento de Arquitectour 2020. Feliz semana y nos vemos el próximo jueves. Chao.
Thank you.
Thank you.